so I can be free. I take the weight on my shoulders. I feel the sky come down on me. And I can't hold it much longer. Gotta let go so I can be free. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Woo! Godfather, you didn't miss anything, man. Nothing has happened over the last several days since we've seen you.
I've been seen. there's been some baseball games on. I know that.
There's been some baseball games. There's been some scandals. There's been some new shows added to the FT fam. And we're now approaching Kratz season, where you find out if you made the team. And he had the great line the other day. Were you on for that, Todd Father, with Jace Tingler? Weren't you on with us for that one?
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
Where they come for cuts, and Kratz is like, I got to feed my family. Don't do it.
The tap on the shoulder. Hey, coach wants to see you. Now I got to go to the bathroom. I'll get him later. Yeah. Any way to stay on one more day, Kratzy.
Hey, he's a superstar. I mean, not superstar, but he's had a great career. Kevin Pillar and I were that guy. It was more during the season than spring training. Like, we were like, we know we are the 25th man on this roster when they still had 25, not 26, because Josh Tolley was always going to be catching Dickey. So we always said he was 24, and I was like, KP, it's either you or me. When we see DeMarlo Hale walking through the door, one of us is going to get reaped. I'm like, I'm going to kill spread. So hopefully he sees you first and picks you.
Yeah, I agree. Do not
one
be
more
by
quick
your
thing,
locker.
and then we'll get into a little mini announcement, and then JD Martinez announcement on signing with the New York Mets. Are dudes rooting against each other if they're fighting for a roster spot? Like the secret, I mean, this is your livelihood. It's not like you're trying to make your JV team, and you know what I'm saying? It's
bad juju.
It's
bad juju. You might keep it in your mind like, I wish I get it over this guy, but I mean, that's just being honest. But for me, that's bad juju. That's that's karma. You don't wish anything upon anybody. So you just want if you put out your best effort and you do your job, there's really nothing else. It's in somebody else's hand. Control the variable. Control what you can control.
That is exactly the right way to go about it. And I've seen it. I've seen it tear guys up, and I've seen it make them be bad teammates. And eventually you'll make the big leagues. Like, if you're hoping for someone else to do bad and you would take that spot then, and the whole time you're like, oh man, get hurt, or strike out. You're beating yourself up, but you're actually really not that good. You're not, that is not, it didn't work out in your favor, but the more you can connect with your teammates, you'll be seen as a better player. You're going to put more of your effort into things that matter. And exactly like Todd said, control what you can control. And that is so out of your control.
And don't be a pencil whipper.
Yes. Pencil whipping was a real thing. But again, you don't make the show if you're a pencil whipper.
Exactly. Right. So you basically know this is not for you. And if you don't know what we're talking about, look it up. You can probably just Google it and type in foul territory, and you'll get a good story or two. Yeah. Do it. Also, a little announcement. We have FT memberships on YouTube. We are now eligible to be able to give you a little loyalty badge if you subscribe to FT. $4.99 a month. No pressure. You do not have to do this. But if you want to support the FT fam, there it is. The Diamond Club. Loyalty badges next to your name in the comments and in the live chat. You have custom emojis to use in the comments and in the live chat, which includes a foul territory logo, fair territory logo, Ken Rosenthal's beautiful face, and our dude Shohei Ohtani's up there too. And we'll get some Dodgers territory action in there as well, which begins on Monday. I'll go over the new shows a little bit later on. So if you want to support the FT fam, go for it. And now let's charge the damn mound because we have a pretty big signing to cover. The news breaks last night that JD Martinez is heading to New York City to be the DH for the New York Metropolitans. Now, originally it said 1 year, $12 million if you looked at any of the insiders putting the money out. But then you dig a little deeper, it's $4.5 million this year, and then he'll get $1.5 million a year on the Dodgers payment plan, aka deferrals, 2034 to 2038. So JD signs with the Mets, Todd Father, for less than he's making last year, coming off a really, really strong season with the Dodgers. And what do you think? I mean, he becomes another victim of the market, right, which is down. And he helps a team that's got a pretty good lineup card, if you've been listening to Erik Kratz.
Yeah, no, I want to ask Erik, where did you have the number for JD first? I would love it because you did a lot of the numbers. Do you remember exactly what deal you had for him? And I want to see if you were anywhere close. Do you remember?
I didn't have it written down.
Okay. All right, that's fine. I was just curious.
I thought he was going to be more like a 2-year just because of what he did and because of the DH position. He's done a good job. I thought it'd be like 2 years, 20.
Yeah. I go ahead, Scott.
Because I did all of mine at the beginning of the offseason, before I found out that some teams were broke. I didn't know who was broke. I wrote down 2 years, $38 million. I was so off on this one. And I don't cook numbers too high usually when I'm doing these. You know, there's a few, yes, but I usually just go off past comps. And if you look at 2022 in a down year, he ended up making about $20 million. And last year, I just lost it, but it was way more. I'll get it to you in one sec. But I just went off numbers where I'm like, all right, 19-ish, you know, based on the last few seasons, 19 a year. And maybe he gets a 2-year deal this time because he proves it every year. And it's not like he's not Poppy where he's at the end of his career. Like, he probably will play another 3 to 5 years if he wants.
Yeah. Think of the lineup here. You got Brandon Nimmo, you got Lindor, you got Jeff McNeil, not in any particular order. Pete Alonso, Alvarez. I mean, you got 5 to 7 pretty good hitters. And we'll see in the bottom of the lineup there. Oh, we had a there. You agree or disagree?
I do agree.
All right, cool. I thought so. I knew you always agree with me anyway. They got a good little ball club coming on here. I mean, this is going to help Pete Alonso. Where they put JD in the lineup, I'm not sure. Is he going to hit, for 30, 40 home runs? Maybe not. But he's going to be that guy that's consistent. He's a consistent hitter. You put him in any part of the lineup, he'll spray the ball to right field. He'll get the guy over. And, he's been doing it for a long time, and he's going to help that clubhouse. So I think it's a great pickup for the Mets. It's a steal. I feel like everybody from here on out is a steal. So, yeah, I think this is great. Get some deferred money. So when he's done playing, hey, honey, guess what? December just rolled around. We can get more gifts for the kids. So all good for him, man. Congratulations.
So it was about 19 a year in 2021 and 2022. And then 10 was the number last year. So I was off a little on the number last year. Mm-hmm. He was coming off a down year the year before that. But obviously he was great last year. And for the Mets, Kratz is big on their lineup. I'm above average on their lineup, but I am below average on the pitching, especially the starting pitching. I think it's clear they don't stack up anywhere close near the Braves and the Phillies. We agree on that, right? This whole group? Yep. Okay.
Agree.
So are they a wild card contender if JD's added?
They need more. You got to
see a lot. You got to see a lot with that rotation. Like, can Severino be high ceiling? Absolutely. Quintana's going to give you a 4 ERA, 3.8 to 4 ERA, which is awesome. What is Sean Manaea going to give you? What is McGill going to give you? What are these guys like? You can't have this many question marks, let alone the fact that where are you going to finish all these innings off? Because this team, I get it, it's not made to win. This signing of JD, I think, shows the lineup, hey, guys, like, you're going to have to really carry this load. Could we be wrong that the pitching could be really good? Is it an 8-inning game? Absolutely, it's an 8-inning game because they have one of the top 3 closers in the game. And how he'll come back, I think he'll come back. I haven't heard anything bad about that. I just don't know if they are up there. If their offense is as good as the Giants' pitching and defense. So to me, I think that's where that last spot goes, and I think the Mets are on the out.
I haven't heard much about Kodai Senga, man. What is going on with him?
Just started throwing.
Okay,
I'll tell you. He did
Go
start.
ahead.
Yeah.
He's played catch. Not off the mound, he played catch.
I know that injury, everybody got scared, but they're saying there's an opportunity for him to get back sooner than later, which is good. But I just haven't heard much about what he has been doing, what progress. So that's a good sign. I mean, I love Hauser. I know I call him Doogie Howser. I absolutely love this guy. I think he's a 3-4 guy, and I think he's, the last outing was really good. So for him, I'm looking for big things for him. He's going to have to be that horse there too as of now. I don't know if they got him slotted as a 4 guy, but I think he's like a 2-3 on the Mets.
The rotation hinges on Severino having what I think Severino should have. I think he should have a great year. What the issue was, tipping, all injury, all that stuff, no idea. But here's your comparison. What team, top to bottom, 26 guys do you take? The Cardinals' current team, the Mets' current team.
Yeah, with it, I go by pitching, so I would go the Cardinals.
Okay.
I'm not even considering their hitting. And they got some dogs too. But I'm going by, I mean, Kratzy, that's a good question, man. That's not nice. They got some salty veterans that have been there before. I'm going with the Cardinals. I'm going to stick with it.
I got Cardinals too by a hair.
I think the lineup for the Mets is superior, far superior. So if you're hoping that the Mets, I think they're far superior.
Okay.
I think you have, if you can pen in 50 home runs from a guy and you can pen in 280 and 30 and 100 runs from Lindor, I mean, just those 2 guys, who are the comparables? Arenado and Goldschmidt? Goldschmidt's not hitting 50. Goldschmidt's not keeping up with Pete. I mean, and to me, I think they're deeper lineup too.
Sorry, I'm trying to interrupt you.
Cardinals can hit.
There you go.
I think you think about Nimmo and you think about McNeil, 280-plus hitters that are going to get on base. The bottom 3 is not that bad. I mean, Vientos and Beatty, they got to step up this year. Bader's been doing it before. You put him at the bottom lineup, basically another leadoff guy if he gets on. I mean, it's a great lineup, like you said. Yeah, no, I would agree with you. I think they're a much better hitting lineup. But will their pitching be there at the end of the day? We don't know.
We don't even need the end of the day. We just need the beginning and maybe the 5th inning.
You're funny, dude.
I think the Mets, it's a nice lineup, but for me, the Cardinals lineup's a pretty nice lineup. I mean, Brendan Donovan, Goldschmidt, I really like Gorman. I think Arenado will be a little better again this year. Wilson Contreras. Outfield, you have to imagine someone like Jordan Walker is going to take another step. Mm-hmm. Mason Wynn. I think there's some pretty nice bats in there. I think the concern with the Cardinals probably similar to the Mets. It's starting pitching, but I'm more worried about the Mets even racking up enough innings. Like the Cardinals, the one thing you're like, all right, at least I'm going to fill some innings and my bullpen won't crumble. You know how it works. If the starters can't fill innings, eventually the bullpen does crumble at the end of the year, especially if it's a team that's not a contender because they're not going to acquire 3 relievers at the trade deadline. So I think that the Cardinals finish maybe 2 to 4 wins ahead of the Mets. I don't have either of them making the playoffs, but I could see the Cardinals being like an 82 or 3 win team, 84 in those low to mid 80s range. And I'm looking at the Mets more like high 70s, maybe getting to 500. That's where I have those two slotted. And my question then, Kratz, that I'll swing back to you because it's related to a guest that's joining us later and someone we spoke about yesterday, is the salaries for Michael Lorenzen versus JD Martinez. Mets need pitching and pitching depth and innings. And they have young Brett Beatty, who they want to play pretty much every day. Clearly, they kind of gave up temporarily on Mark Vientos. So that was different from what we heard a couple months ago from David Stearns and the rest of the group. They must not have loved what they saw in spring training. And some fans that I've been chatting with while you guys talk, because, you know, I only half listen to you, they've been like, you like that? They've been like, yo, they didn't really give Vientos a chance. And I'm thinking in my head, should they have spent that money on Michael Lorenzen to give themselves a better shot at being a playoff team? See if you've got something. And there's other prospects coming up too that can help to fill that DH. I love JD. It's a great bat, but I'm just wondering if the arm would have been more helpful for them. What do you think?
It's a organizational, not philosophy, but organizational view of what a player is. And I want to ask Michael, when he comes on, like, does he see himself as a 180 inning guy? Because if he doesn't, if the organization doesn't, then are they okay just getting another arm to fill their rotation, which they feel like their rotation is what it is. They have their 5 guys and they're getting Senga back at some point. So they felt like, they wanted to bolster a strength and not try to prop up a weakness.
Who would you rather have, Todd, Father? It's not about the player. It's just about, do you think that the Mets needed another pitcher? Let's just put it that way. Before they needed another bat.
Yes.
I do.
And yes, I agree. I agree 100%. You remember we talked about this. You cannot have enough starting pitching. You see it in the playoffs every year. You cannot have enough starting pitching. You got guys at the bottom, the 4 or 5 guys. I mean, McGill, we don't know what we're going to get from him. Or like I'm on the team. They don't know what they're going to get for him at the end of the day. I mean, is Severino going to come back and be the Severino of old? So there's a lot of factors that go involved in this. There's a guy that'll be waiting at the wings. You could put him in the bullpen for now and then build him back up. I mean, he's going to have plenty of time in spring training. If one of the guys is his first 3 starts aren't there, it's like, all right, well, we got Michael to pick him up. So it's always a nice backup plan to have, especially picking a guy up late, which I don't agree with, but
yeah. Well, let's get into that right now. We have our first guest of the day on FT Live, who is joining us on the show for, maybe the 3rd or 4th time. One of our favorite guests joining us right now, always with a great smile on his face. Pumped to see him. Michael Lorenzen joining the show right now. Really fresh off finally kind of landing the contract. And I know it took a minute, Michael, but welcome to the defending World Series champs. How you doing, dude?
Yeah, appreciate that. I'm doing great. I'm in a good spot. So all the guys, I'm meeting the guys, and it seems like a great spot.
Let me ask you this. I want to jump right into it because I've been a part of what you've been a part of, dude. I want you to talk a little bit about what the heck this offseason was for you, man. It must have been a whirlwind. I remember talking to my agent every day. My wife's like, what the hell's going on here? Call him again. Call him again, man. Go over basically whatever you want to talk about this offseason, about what kind of craziness and baloney that you've been going through.
Yeah, I did get the wife having me, call him again, that same situation quite a bit. So, no, man, Frazier, me being in the clubhouse, I read my Bible daily. And so every single day it would be frustrating, but that was a reminder for me, like, hey, why do you play this game? It would ground me again, because I'd get pretty frustrated, thinking like, man, what's going on with these teams? Why is this happening? Stuff like that. And I just need to get reminded of, like, you're playing this game for a bigger purpose. There's more to it. I don't know the full story. Just trust the plan, trust the process. You have an agent in place. Just to do that work and just trust it, man. And however it works out, it's meant to work out that way. So that kind of kept me grounded. And I was just kind of, I'd contact my agent here and there, and call him and ask him what was going on and for certain situations. But man, I just really just gave it to God and just said, wherever you want me, just send me there. That's it.
That's awesome. Does that give you peace? Does that give you confidence that is, unknown to other people who are going through the same process and don't have that faith?
Yeah, me and my wife have talked about it all the time. Like, man, I don't know how we would go through this without faith, because it's like that there's a bigger purpose and there's another plan working out that I'm not in control of. And it's the creator of the universe has this plan. Like, who am I to try and get in the way of it? So, yeah, I mean, it gave me peace. Like I said, though, I'm human and there was a lot of frustration involved in that process. It wasn't perfect, but, getting in the Word daily definitely helped me reground my mind and just my job was just to stay in shape and stay ready for when the call came, and that's what I feel like I did.
That's a great answer, dude. I love that. But I thought part of that answer would be running on a beach with your shirt off, getting a nice little glaze in. I'm just busting chops. One of the greatest videos, if you haven't seen yet, this guy glazing on the beach, getting his pump in and everything else. Awesome stuff. Were there any other teams involved during this negotiation, or was just one team nipping at the butt?
No, there's a lot of teams. There's a lot of check-ins. So just a lot of check-ins, and like, man, that you would think that there would be a little more sense of urgency, but
Yep.
that wasn't always the case, and so that was the really frustrating part. But yeah, there were a lot. Sorry, there were a lot more teams but it was all a lot of just checking in, and we were hearing that from a lot of different people.
That's got to be frustrating, but for me,
am I lagging here?
You're lagging a little bit, yeah. I think you're good though. Can you hear us fine?
Different location. All right. Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Now I forgot because you were lagging. I forgot what I was going to say. My brain is lagging.
I got you.
What
I got you.
is?
So go ahead.
When they check in and you hear a team is checking in, do you feel like the team is sitting there going, I wonder what other people are offering him? Or are they checking in saying, hey, have you changed your price? Have you changed what you think somebody who makes an all-star team and throws a no-hitter the season before is worth?
It seemed like the checking in was a lot of if I change my price. And our thought was, look, my price I'm not trying to get anything over my value. I'm just trying to, I'm not asking for anything more than that. So we weren't trying to go out and overdo this thing. We were just trying to go out and a market is a market, and we felt like the market was set for my value pretty early on, and that's really all we were asking for. We weren't trying to go above that. We were even willing to, with the right team, to go under that. So yeah, this offseason wasn't me trying to go out and get the biggest bag of money that I could ever possibly imagine. It was just, hey, there's a market for a reason, and this is where we see the market is, and when the right team comes and offers that, then we'll pull the trigger.
So you felt like you were being fair, and it didn't seem like it was reciprocated.
Yeah, for whatever reason, like I said, for whatever reason, it wasn't reciprocated. And like I've said, I just had to trust that there's a bigger plan in place, and that's what was going on.
So what do you look at teams when you're a free agent? Do you ever look at teams? Because we're trying to delve into this whole free agency thing in the mind of somebody who has a really good year. Because we look at it and we say, okay, Team X has 5 starting pitchers, but they have 2 more coming back. Michael Lorenzen would be a good spot here. Michael Lorenzen would be a good spot here. Like what he's done, and he's a Swiss Army knife at a high, like an all-star Swiss Army knife. We're not just getting a dude that's like, he's kind of gimmicky as a starter. Do you look at those teams and say, man, like, I feel like they should need me? And you're like, call your agent up, like, did they call? No, they didn't. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things for me that was off the table early on though was I don't want to go back in the bullpen. So that's where, some of that stuff can be a little bit of a hiccup where if a team brings the bullpen, I'm like, well, I go there. Like, if my market was different, then I would go into the bullpen. But I'm also, playing this game to try and take care of my family, and I feel like the best way for me to do that is in the rotation. And so, just by me going in the bullpen for, a couple weeks at the end of the season last year, I feel like teams try to use that against me. And yeah, I would just rather, get all of my starts out of the rotation and prove what I can do.
Yeah.
What did they talk? Have you talked to Boch about what your role is going to be? I know you said you didn't want to go to the bullpen, but have you guys sat down and explained like what your next role might be for this team?
Yeah, so I've gone 4 innings twice. So I've been up to 70 pitches twice. Body's feeling good. And so I'm going to come in and I think we're going to do it, as not as, I guess, we're just going to do it as safely as possible, but we're going to throw me into the rotation and I'm going to get a start here soon. Few innings since I'm built up pretty good. And yeah, I'm supposed to start in the rotation.
Hey,
Let me
Michael.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Todd.
No. Go ahead. You're good.
Michael, I just wanted to know about what the prep process was like for you the last few weeks to try and get yourself to the point where you can jump into camp pretty quickly. And also, I think it included at least one bullpen session where scouts were there too, right? So did you feel like instead of getting ready, you had to like perform in a bullpen session like that?
Yeah, that bullpen session was more for Syndergaard, and then I was throwing a bullpen after him, and so scouts kind of just stayed to watch. But I felt I didn't stop throwing this whole offseason because I was pretty upset with how last season ended, and I had a lot of work to get done, and so I kind of went back to the drawing board and made some adjustments, and so I was throwing kind of a lot all offseason, and through that, I was throwing a lot of bullpens, and so I was pretty built up. And so, yeah, I feel like the way last year and the way these teams are older, and it just gave me a drive that I never knew existed, and so I feel like every time I touch a ball, I'm like performing right now because it's just given me this drive that's on another level.
I think we okay on the connection there? Sorry, Michael. I think it's getting a little wonky. Yeah, we'll try one more here. All right, so you joined a team that won the World Series last year. What is it like to jump into an organization that's coming off the highs of highs? Can you sense that? I mean, obviously you've played for several teams now. Can you sense something different when you join a ball club that just accomplished, the dream of many young ball players out there? Uh-oh.
No, we did lose him.
We did.
Sometimes the
He
Wi-Fi
gone.
doesn't work. He's a
Now we lost Scotty.
One of the
yeah. We lost. There he is, Scotty.
There's Scotty. Say it again, Scotty. We lost you. You were miming.
now?
We hear you now.
There
we
you
hear
are.
now.
We got you.
Oh, I was asking where he is. Where do you guys think he is at the facility right now? Where?
So I was trying
He's in
to
the
think too
cobwebs.
because that's where I played. I'm thinking exactly where he would be with a white background. Oh man, I have the slightest clue because there wasn't that many hallways there, if you want the truth. So, hey, he's a solid guy. He's got his faith in God, and that's what I love about how he understands. Like, I have faith in God too, but at the same time, I get frustrated, and I'm calling every day, like, what is going on here? And it must have been tough for him. It's tough for everybody that's going through this. You're thinking about the guys that still haven't signed. So it's like, what are we doing?
And Kratz, a big thing for him was making sure that he's a starter, and also that he was disappointed in the end of his season. I'm sure that's what many teams were using against him. Can you make the case that he hadn't started in a while? So I know a player's never going to admit this for the most part, but you can run out of gas if you've been a reliever for a while, and then you're going out there for 5, 6 innings, 7 innings, 9 innings one time.
All 9. But I think it's something that as a player you do learn that. And this dude, just like Todd said, he's in great shape. So he wants to get himself in the shape that he needs to be in. But I thought that was very telling. The fact that he was like, no, I want my 32 starts. He worked all offseason to get to these 32 starts. Maybe he saw that, hey, you know what, I didn't throw enough, and I felt different at the end of the season. He wasn't hurt. He felt different. And sometimes you see that sometimes with no hitters, like that can drain a guy. I mean, this is an extreme case, but Johan Santana, when he threw like 155 pitches, and he didn't really pitch much after it. Now, he was at the end of his career, but this guy's motivated to step into a rotation. But I thought the fact that he was like, no, I want to only start could have been part of his market too, which to me, only start, this should have been anywhere from, a 7 to 9 per year kind of deal. And I thought he would be into a 2-year deal. That was my guess.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, let's bring him back right now and get into those topics again. Michael, we'll see if we got you better here. That cinder block, that college dorm room action can be tricky sometimes, but you look a little smoother. So let's try again. First off, I'll just piggyback off. I think the last question I asked was about jumping into a team that just won a World Series championship. So what's it like to be in the clubhouse there when, this team is just coming off the highs of highs?
Michael, go outside, man.
Man,
It happens.
it does.
We appreciate it. Trying.
Obviously, they figured. All right, guys.
All right, we'll try.
We'll talk to you
I think
soon,
we'll try
brother. Don't
next
worry
time.
about it.
Yeah, don't worry, Michael. Sorry about it.
World
Damn.
Series team, minor league Wi-Fi. It's okay.
Minor
It
league
happens.
Wi-Fi. It happens. Damn.
It happens. Ask the Yankees.
Ask the Yankees. It's free now. We beat that to death a little bit too much. It's free now. They turned the Wi-Fi on the plane. It's like a button that they have to push.
There we go.
It is funny sometimes people ask, because I dealt with this for years at the ballparks too, and sometimes we would try to do certain, like, go live on social when I worked at MLB and all that, and it's amazing some of the ballparks and facilities. Like, obviously some of them are great, and others are a fucking disaster. Disaster. Like, we would try to do anything like really basic. I try to do like a Twitter Spaces, just my voice, and it's like blah, blah, and I'm like, yo, we're at a big league ballpark, and there's no one even in here yet. It would usually be like pre or post game.
Yeah,
so,
that's why I'm
it is
glad
what it
I
is.
don't know what to do on a computer. So, pen and paper.
I don't understand it. I mean, I guess it's one of those things where you have it. When you have it, you're like, oh yeah, well, this is just what you would assume in the big leagues. And then when you don't, you're like, oh, maybe are these cinder block walls a little thicker?
Yeah.
Or is it cloudy? I love when they're like, oh yeah, when it's cloudy, we usually don't get as much service. I'm like, stop. I was born at night, but not last night.
I get frustrated. You get frustrated. Do you have this at your own house? Certain spots you get spotty Wi-Fi, bro. I guess it's just like the spring
Get an
training.
extender.
I'll extend you with one of these. How about
Oh,
that?
would you? Woodsy,
Yeah.
big tough guy when I'm not there. You can't punch through a screen. I'll make the drive. Get your fist out.
You ready for the people?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so Stephen Nesbitt, friend of the show, did his annual fan survey, and it looks at fan optimism and fan pessimism. So let's look at the 22,000 fans, by the way, participated. The top 10 most optimistic fan bases, okay? Number 1, Baltimore Orioles. Number 2, Atlanta Braves. Number 3, the Arizona Diamondbacks. Then you got the World Series champs at 4, Phillies at 5, Dodgers at 6. Man, there's well over 3% of fans that were worried about the Dodgers. Astros at 96%. Then the Reds, the Cubs, and the Twins.
You go top 8 right there. That's 96% plus. So that's a lot of worry. No?
No, that's no worry. That's no worry.
Oh, excuse me.
Optimism. No worry.
I misspoke.
So they're in love.
I'm just saying
96 plus
that's
percent.
good.
They're in
Okay.
love. Yeah. Except I would expect. I mean, what more could the Dodgers have done this offseason? Should they have signed one more starter and then you'd get them to 100? Like, where's the angry Dodgers fan at right now? I get it. They've won one World Series during this run, and it was during the COVID season. That's what it is, Kratz. They're worried about the playoff
I think it's
situation.
optimistic. Like,
Rotation.
are they going to win a World Series? Like an optimistic team, optimistic fan base. For the Phillies to be up there, that's huge. And you're going to all these ballparks with some good vibes because they're juiced about their team and their chances. And to me, you're probably going to see a ton of spike in attendance for teams that haven't spiked. The one that's funny to me that I think might get disappointed this year might be the Diamondbacks. They might not. I don't know. I just feel like and the bottom 3, it's the Midwest. It's the Midwest optimism. They're like, oh, baseball's neat. I'm so glad the Twins didn't really do much, but it's okay. We made the playoffs last year, and we're in the AL Central, so it'll be cool.
What about the Cubs?
That's just Cubs day games.
You
That's what I
surprised
mean.
that
Midwest optimism.
9 out of 10. Oh, that's what you're saying with the whole Central there. But like 9 out of 10 Cubs fans are like, "Yo, this is it. This is the year." I mean, I think they're a playoff contender, but I'm not like, "Yo, I feel really good. We crushed it this offseason. We're good to go."
No matter what the Mets do, they're going to be in the bottom of the order. That's just how Mets fans are. I mean, that's just
No,
the
you
truth.
think that they were this low last year? They were probably on the other side. They were probably top 10. No?
It doesn't matter. They're going to be
It doesn't
below
change?
50%. No. They could have picked up Ohtani. It still would have been under 50%.
I bet they're optimistic about their long-term future with Cohen as their owner.
True.
How about Pete Alonso? They would be less than 50%.
But
All right, before we
less
bring
than
on
50%.
Ken, just give me one take on the pessimism list.
I think everybody's spot on except the Giants. Now it doesn't mean that's when the Giants really were
Picked up Snell, yeah.
Made their last. I don't know when he did this, but the Cardinals, that's surprising to me. The Cardinals, 44% that their fan base is not optimistic about their own team. I'm surprised about that.
And they did this poll about 2 weeks ago when they sent that poll out, okay? So Giants fans understandably had a different looking roster. The one for me is the Blue Jays. I know it wasn't a great offseason for them, but I mean, they've been a playoff team. There have been some guys that have underperformed. To me, that means the Toronto fan base is kind of pissed and maybe not as in love with the roster as some other people are, right? 31%, that's pretty low. I mean, they're almost bottom 5. In terms of optimism. So that one was surprising to me. All right, let's bring in FT Senior Insider Ken Rosenthal joining us right now, fresh off his first Fair Territory Live, which I watched and loved, and we introduced his co-host on that edition of the show. Alana Rizzo. Ken, great to see you, and congratulations on the expansion of the show and the addition to the show. It was really, really fun to watch both of you go back and forth.
Thanks. And it's great to have Alana, working with her again. I work with her at the network a little bit. We never were together all that much, but her voice is a good voice to have on any show. She's knowledgeable, she's experienced, she knows the game really well, and to go back and forth on some of the issues that are going on with her is really cool. So I enjoyed it. We had a lot to tackle yesterday. It was insane for March 20th or wherever we are, March 22nd now. But that's the way the game is sometimes, and it's been a little bit hectic lately, put it that way.
Yeah, a lot of heavy drama yesterday. So if you want to catch any of that, obviously it's up there wherever you get your pods, YouTube, etc. Let's push it forward because the latest news is JD Martinez signing up with the New York Mets. So what did you think of the deal for the player and for the team?
I liked it for the team a lot. I thought the Mets needed one more bat at least and needed some protection for Alonso. I know statistical analysts sometimes say protection is overrated and all of that, but if they want to look at it that way, that's fine. Let's just say they needed one more big bat. And JD Martinez certainly is that. He was hurt a little bit last year. Age obviously is a concern, but he is, when healthy, one of the great students of the game and a guy who continues to crush the ball. From the team's perspective, okay, so I like it. From the player's perspective, I must say I have to like it as well, especially given where we are in the calendar and some of the deals other people are signing. Michael Lorenzen, who is not JD Martinez, I understand that, but he got $4.5 million. And you look at some of the infielders who have signed, even some of the outfielders like Adam Duvall, $3 million. Is JD Martinez $12 million and Adam Duvall $3 million? I'm not so sure, but that is the way it played out. So good for him for getting a raise on what he earned last year. He did take a $10 million deal last year with the Dodgers. And good for him as well. We want to see JD hit. I mean, this guy is one of the more fun players to watch approach the pitcher and just do what he does in the box. So it was good news. It was cool to see. And for the Mets fans, I know what Todd was saying about them being pessimistic, but this should give them a little bit more optimism. This is a little bit of a move in the right direction.
Would Michael Lorenzen signing for the Mets have made him push more in the right direction? Because it seems like their lineup, we were talking about before, their lineup is pretty stacked. Would a Lorenzen fair market value, because we just had Michael on and he just wanted a fair market price, that's what he was looking for, would that have helped the Mets more?
Couldn't have hurt, but I don't know that it would have helped them more because I don't necessarily see their lineup, Erik, as dangerous as maybe you just thought or said right there. They've got Lindor, they've got Nimmo, they've got Alonso, Marte may be healthy, but they're not, in my view, that powerful a lineup. So JD kind of helps them along those lines. And I know Alvarez is coming and McNeil is a good hitter when he's there, but I wanted to see a little bit more offense. So in my opinion, going to JD Martinez rather than going with Vientos and Mulbatty's going to play third base now and just mix it up that way, just go with the kids. For a team that claims it's still competing for a playoff spot, you go get JD Martinez. Maybe you get Michael Lorenzen too, but they're not in that mode right now.
All right. The biggest story right now in baseball is something that, for some reason, baseball's not giving us much information. And I feel like the whole Ohtani situation and Ipe, his translator, how do we navigate through this? I read your article. I tried to read it twice because there's so much good information in it. But how do we navigate this in the sense of, is MLB moving fast enough? Or are they moving at the pace that they should in these situations? Because we know this didn't just come up yesterday. This was something that I think you said January they started to hear about this? Or am I incorrect on that?
No, I didn't say that. And I'm not sure when exactly MLB started hearing about it. My understanding is that they received some media inquiries probably this week, and that is when they heard about it. Now, to get to what Andy McCullough and I wrote today, we basically threw out some unanswered questions, and I think there was 6 in our article. Probably could have been 60, right? There's so much that is not known here and so much we need to know. Now, as to the question of what MLB should be doing and should they be opening an investigation right now, I asked that question of a league spokesperson yesterday, and Their position is that they're looking into it, that they're gathering information, that this is still really new, and that they don't have a lot of information. It's a federal investigation going on. You have Ohtani's attorneys saying they're going to the authorities, but they have not identified which authorities they're going to. So baseball is biding its time. At the same time, we have his interpreter, Ohtani's interpreter, essentially saying in his first version of the story, the one he told to ESPN, that Ohtani was paying off debts for him to an illegal bookmaker. That raises questions, right? Big questions. And the story is Ohtani was not involved. Okay, fine. But I would think baseball would want to get to the bottom of that story, would want to know if Ippei Mizuhara was indeed betting on just other sports, or was he betting on baseball too? Are we going to take his word? He just changed his story within a span of 24 hours. So there are all these questions, and baseball gets a little bit tentative and bristles sometimes at the criticism of not acting quickly enough. But in my view, they sort of need to act more quickly here. They sort of need to kind of send a message that they're going to be involved here. Now they're saying, hey, listen, we're getting there. We're not there yet. We have to follow the proper procedures and all that. I get it. But people are going to be really curious about what happened here. And baseball is seemingly taking the side of, it was massive theft. He's a victim. So why should we investigate him? I understand that if that was the only side of this story. It's not the only side of this story. The other side is that Ohtani was involved in paying off Mizuhara's debts to an illegal bookmaker. Something that I learned yesterday from other media reports is basically illegal. Now, I don't know that he would be prosecuted for it. Prosecutors aren't necessarily going to go after him for that. But at the same time, it is against federal law to wire or transfer funds to an illegal bookmaking operation. So there are a lot of unanswered questions here, a ton, more than I can even think of. And we tried to answer a few, but this thing is not going away, and it's troubling. Even if Ohtani is completely innocent here, innocent of any wrongdoing at all. He didn't bet on baseball. He just was trying to help a friend. However you want to frame it, you still want to know more. You still want to know exactly what happened. And at some point, baseball is going to have to look at it in that fashion.
Without a doubt. I mean, when you talk about unanswered questions, I would say red flags. I mean, you think about the money, how much money was involved. I don't want to be misquoted. Something like, what was it, in millions of dollars? I think 4.5 million. Am I right on that?
That's right. Yes.
That's one red flag. It's not like we're talking $4,500. Number two, you can't gamble in California. That's just law. Where did they do it?
Can't gamble with illegal bookmakers. It can't gamble on sports,
illegal
right?
bookmakers in California. There's a lot to unfold here, and I know you've been talking about it. It kind of led to what I was going to say, but this isn't going away anytime soon. I mean, you think about the people in the past that have gotten caught up in gambling and all this type of stuff. This is one of the most. You talk about steroids. This gambling is right behind it because there's been some high naming people involved. So this is something, in my opinion, that's not going to go away. Should it go away? No, this has to get done. And I just don't know what the next steps will be, Ken. So it's something where we're sitting on their hands and feet waiting to see what happens here to probably the most prolific baseball player we might ever see play the game.
Actually, Todd, you make some great points there. One, let's be clear on this. Sports gambling is legal in 38 states. 38 states you're allowed to bet on sports. California is not one of them. So that's an immediate problem for Mizuhara, right? The other thing that you said that is definitely noteworthy is where or how gambling is looked at by Major League Baseball. It is not behind steroids, I would say. It is number one as far as cardinal sins. Betting on baseball, that is. You're allowed to bet on other sports. This is complicated. We addressed it in the article. And I know fans get confused by this. We get confused by this in the media. Players, employees, club officials, you can bet on other sports as long as you're doing it in states that are legal. You can have your NCAA pool. You can have your fantasy football leagues and all that, and nobody discourages that. And there's money spent in clubhouses, not 4.5 million, but you guys get after it. So that's okay. But betting on baseball, that's numero uno, no. Now, Mizuhara says he didn't. Okay, I'd like to know more about that. And the issue here is actually bigger than anything we're talking about. We have a sport, and not just the only professional sports league, that is partnering with gambling companies. We partner at Foul Territory and Fair Territory with gambling companies. The Athletic, for a time, partnered with gambling companies. Everyone seems to partner with gambling companies. Why? Because there's money in it, a lot of money. Now, what's the flip side? And this is the last thing we addressed in the article. The flip side is when you encourage this environment, or at least be part of it in a sense, when states legalize sports gambling, it is not exactly a shock that episodes like this will occur, right? Things are going to happen. Now, things happened even before this all got legalized, but the odds of it happening now are greater. The odds of a player of Ohtani's stature being involved are greater. And even if he is not involved in the sense that he is gambling, he's involved because this guy is his friend and interpreter. So I don't know where baseball or any other sports league should draw the line here. They're not going to draw the line, obviously. The question we asked at the end of the article is, what level of embarrassment will each league accept in order to take that money? And that is a big question.
My last question on this, do you think now more than ever, one, Ohtani needs to talk more now to the media, let it be known a little bit, and will he all of a sudden come out and just be this guy that's like, you know what, let me get on the mic and talk to some people here, because I feel like it's one of those things where eventually he's going to have to talk. Do I think he needs to? I think he needs to address it too as well, as we get further. I don't think he needs to address it today, but I think it's one of those things where he's going to have to come out of his shell and explain to everybody.
Todd, that's something all of us would like, but
Yeah.
there is a federal investigation going on into this gambling operation run by this person in California. Mizuhara was betting with that person, and there is not a chance Ohtani is going to talk while this is all pending, I would say. I would be shocked if he talked. And Erik and you, Todd, and all the other guys on our show, they've never been involved, or you've never been involved in federal investigations, so you've never had to clam up like that. But generally speaking, this is what happens. I'm not surprised at all. And the fact that he doesn't talk much, or he talks on his schedule, that's okay. Nobody really cares about that. Fans don't care. We'd like him to talk more. He talks when he wants to talk. Always, as media, we want guys to share what they're thinking, share their thoughts, share things about certain plays, whatever. But in this circumstance, it's a little too serious, I guess you'd say. And he can't jeopardize himself in any way.
You hit on it that we're in a different landscape of gambling. Do you think MLB and maybe even sports in general need to tighten up their bylaws, not change their bylaws? I get it. You don't ever want anybody gambling on the sport that they're playing. That is corrupt. That is disingenuous. That is bottom line. Can't happen. But you think they need to tighten this up because of the world we live in? That was 5 years ago. We didn't live in this world with professional sports.
It's a great question, Erik. I don't know that I have a good answer. So let's say you're a baseball player right now, a major league or a member of the union, and you're told by the league, nah, you can't bet on sports through DraftKings in a state where it's legal, or FanDuel or BetMGM or any of these companies. I don't know, one, if you could even trace that. Guys have multiple phones and do all kinds of things. And I don't know that that's even the right thing to do. So it's out of the bag, right? It's just the train has left the station. And I don't know, beyond the rules that are currently in place, which of course need to be enforced, that any of these leagues is going to take a harder line or look at its regulations in a more serious way, because they have regulations. They have rules against however you want to put it, illegal sports gambling, however you want to describe it. there are rules in place. They are enforced to the extent that the leagues can enforce them. I just don't know that they're going to get any tighter.
I see this super differently on that front with what Kratz said, just coming from a world where most of my friends have been betting on sports for decades. And I even asked the commissioner this once, probably about 8-9 years ago, before it was obviously getting passed in most states. I was like, when are they going to legalize it? Because I was like, my friends get in the hole with bad guys. And I was like, and if it's regulated, that can't happen. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work the same way. You don't bet on credit like that and suddenly owe millions of dollars. And also, if someone's doing something shady, the books regulate it all, and they can actually catch if someone's doing something wrong. So I've been on that side of things.
I
Like,
hear you.
People bet responsibly, drink responsibly, etc. Like I think regulating it has actually helped.
Okay, but I just don't know how you'd stop it. And I don't know that it would just work the way we would think it would work. And there's so much out there. There are so many ways to gamble. I just don't know how you stop that. That's all. I don't disagree with you. And I'd like to see no player get involved in something like this, because there are people, and Ipe Mizuhara apparently was one of them, that gets sucked into this, and obviously they become compulsive gamblers, and it's a sickness, a disease, like being an alcoholic, right? That's what we've learned over the years. It's hard to relate to, and it's shocking to me that Mizuhara, from what I know of him, and I've had quite a few dealings with him, would be in this particular situation. But I've had friends too, Scott, that I never imagined would become compulsive gamblers, and they have. So it's a real thing. And my point is, when you get in partnership with these companies, when you basically approve of what this is, you're going to have situations, man, and they're not going to always be pretty.
Yeah, the betting on credit thing, where obviously someone who's doing something and running a book, that's what gets wild. I've seen it many times as a Jersey guy. Let's put it that way. One more on this, actually, on the league side, because your colleague Evan Drellick obviously covers some heavy hitting topics within the league for years, right? Just like you. So this one stood out to me. He said, in regards to your article with Andy McCullough, my 2 cents. It's stunning that Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred have a Department of Investigations, and the league did not immediately announce DOI was being deployed to investigate all of it. Just a brutal look for the league's credibility on gambling and integrity. And also, he responded to one fan comment that said there's an investigation going on with the feds, and that MLB has always let them do that first. But he said, people keep saying this as though MLB couldn't do what it has done so many times before. Announce a formal investigation, and then, yes, wait on feds to complete it if need be. But the idea that an MLB inquiry can't be simply announced while the feds are looking into it, please. Those were his words.
Evan's not wrong. And as a staff, we were going back and forth on this yesterday and just how to handle it. Whether to basically have a separate column saying just what Evan said, or to make it part of the questions the way we outlined them, Andy and I. And we chose the route we did. And I knew Evan had the opinion he did. He was very vocal about it in our conversations. And the tweet reflects his feelings, and I'm not sure he's wrong, guys. There's nothing to stop the league from saying right now, we can investigate. We're going to investigate. We plan to investigate, regardless of anything else going on. And it raises the question. We point this out in the article. When you don't do that, when you kind of pull back, raises the question, okay, are you really going to look into this, or are you going to shy away from investigating the golden child, the cash magnet, the unicorn, the guy who is essentially the centerpiece of the sport? And that's a question the league is going to have to deal with. And if they're truly concerned, as Evan said, about their integrity, they will treat this as they would treat any player in this circumstance.
Ken, you're on the ball, bro, and that's why we love you. Good stuff. I'm going to switch gears here for you, give you a little easier question. I wrote down here on my notes, Stanton surge. So we're talking about Giancarlo Stanton. He hit 3 home runs the other day. He looks great. Is this just a little inkling of what we're going to see this year, you think? Or do you think it's, it's good for Stanton, but let's not hold our breath here. What do you think Giancarlo's got in the bag here this year for the Yankees?
It's a great question. And number one, Todd, I want to see him stay healthy. If he stays healthy, he's going to do some good things. And the problem has been he has not stayed healthy. Did some different things in the offseason obviously trimmed down. This guy's got an amazing physique with the weight, without the weight, whatever. But that's not what necessarily wins baseball games. He seems to have done some things that will put him in better position as a baseball player. And that's something he needed to do. And the one thing about Stanton, I know Yankee fans get down on him on occasion, and understandably given his performance. But his comments at the end of the season, when he basically said, what I'm doing is unacceptable, I've got to get better. Those are the kinds of comments I would think most fans want to hear. And he went out and did something about it. Now, how it all plays out, we'll see. But this is a guy who cares. This is a guy who wants to be great again. And I don't want to come off sounding like an apologist for Giancarlo Stanton. But if you're looking at this objectively as a fan out there, and you see what he said and you see what he did, he obviously is trying. And we'll see where it goes. Guy's one of the great physical talents in the game. We know that. He's been a good citizen. There's never been any problems with him. And he's a guy that I think is pretty easy to root for, actually.
I like it. Let's see what happens with him. Hey, we're less than a week away from the season. Ken, good to see you again. Thank you for getting into this. I think a lot of people really are looking for more information. A lot of places obviously are not covering it, but there are great articles on that front in addition to what we just talked about. So if you want to learn more about Ohtani's situation, check out Ken's article that he released today with Andy McCullough. And Ken, we'll talk to you next week, opening week of the season for everyone else.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Ken Rosenthal with us. It's good stuff, though, guys. And I'm talking in the chat, too, while you guys are chatting and just telling everyone it's cool that we're able to kind of just get into all of this. I come from a world where, forget being restricted, like it's not even I come from the TV world where they tell you what you can talk about. They like kind of say, here's what the topics are today. So it's not even a debate. They just say like, yeah, this isn't getting brought up under any circumstances. And if you make a joke about it, you're probably going to get in trouble. So I just like to be able to chat with it, you know?
I bet this is not getting talked about at some places.
Many places, you know.
It's like we're at
if you're watching games and all that. Yeah, go ahead, Todd Father.
When Ken comes on, it's like we're at a bar, bro. Hey, dude, you hear about this? What is your opinion? You know, like then you got the guy from the other side. Yo, I heard about it too. Let me tell you something about this. This is what this show's about, guys. This is what we do. It's guys being guys. And I'm going out tomorrow with some dudes I haven't seen in a while. I'm fired up. And guess what? We're going to be talking about this most likely. Todd, bro, talk to me. And this is the shit we do, man. And this is the natural realm of this show and how it excites me because we're talking about things and we got people that are watching and understanding. Like, listen, we're going to get straight from the piper's mouth sometimes. We're going to get exactly what we need to hear. And if not, we'll find a question that gets it to you. And this is the exciting part. So I'm really excited about. I'm not excited about how all these news comes out. I wish there wasn't much on any player, but this is something real serious.
Yeah, and you want a little more real talk? Let's get to money moves, baby. And we got Mr. Pennsylvania on with us every day. So let's talk about some stadium situations because I need more insight here. I'm not from that area. And this is from Howard Eskin, who has been writing down there for a long time, right? I've seen his name since I was a kid.
He was a radio guy. He is to me, because I grew up in Philly, he was the quintessential original pioneer of the somebody calls up, you're an idiot, hangs up on him. You know, you're a dope. He loves saying you're a dope and hangs up on him because the guy disagrees with you're such a dope. You think if Ben Simmons, he would call him Benjamin Simmons because he's got no J instead of Benjamin Simmons. So he was kind of an antagonist, but he is an insider about what's going on in the city. And he has his biases. If you read his tweet, he has his biases for which teams he really follows in the city. He loves the Eagles.
So he said the Phillies and Comcast Spectator are teaming up to develop a new sports complex in South Philly. The Phillies made the announcement they're joining Spectacor not spectators,
Spectacor,
Spectacor.
yeah. Yep.
On a $2.5 billion development project, the two orgs will collaborate to make the destination a world-class live, work, play, sports and entertainment district. It's now even more ridiculous and a bigger joke that the Sixers still want to build a downtown Philly arena. Who will really want to attend with everything going on in a South Philly complex? Enjoy the 250 dark nights. So I'll let you mostly explain this, but is the main point here that it makes more sense for a ballpark versus an NBA team because you have more dates on the calendar?
Yes, but they're all in the central location. The owner of the Sixers, and this is more of a basketball thing, ownership, mayor stuff. The owner of the Sixers wants to go downtown. And when they say South Philly, for people who aren't from Philly, they mean the complex where the Link is, where the Eagles play, where Wells Fargo Center is, where the Sixers and the Flyers play, and Citizens Bank, where the Phillies play. That's South Philly. They have all the parking lots. If they had games in every single one of those stadiums, they would still be able to cover all the parking. So it's a massive complex. And to me, I'm biased because this is Spectrum. Now they've torn both those down. Veterans Stadium actually tore down 20 years ago yesterday. But it was the destination because you can drive in, you park, you don't have an issue finding parking. There is mass transit that goes directly to the stadium. So it's a really well-planned spot. There is nothing but Xfinity Live around it. So now they're going to build around that area, which they already did. They put in a live casino. They tore down what we called Freddie Galvis's hotel. Freddie Galvis was the only one that would stay there, and it was the only hotel on the property. But now they put in live casino. So this is going to be more of a entertainment area now. Now you come down to that area, you park, and you can stay for the weekend, which to me is such an amazing event when you can bring your entire city together for multiple events, in the sense that you could watch the Union if they start becoming, if they move some of their games out of the Union Stadium into the Link. You can go to a Sixers game. You can go to the Flyers, the Phillies play at the same time, the Sixers and the Eagles. So it's a entire complex instead of the Sixers moving downtown where the area where they're at isn't great, but there's some not legal, but political, like we want to move here because we have this connection. So to me, this is awesome and even better for the Phillies because the Phillies are in on this. And this is what every other team we're talking about is holding their city hostage for. And look who's stepping up. They're not asking for the city to give money. They're asking for another business who's going to profit off it, the Phillies who are going to profit off it. And they're like, $2.5 billion, we're going to get this thing done.
And
That was good.
I'm only an hour drive, which is good for me. So I can actually, I got my player gold pass. I can go have some fun, try and win a couple bucks, have a few root beers, and go to the game, watch for a couple innings, and beat the traffic before I get home. This is going to be. I love everything about this. This is great. This is really, really great. I love it.
And sometimes we talk about how, owners hold certain cities hostage with trying to get public money. That part pisses me off. The part that I generally do like, and I know there's more intricacies to each situation, is if there's an area where it's a ballpark and nothing, like literally nothing, just land or parking lot or all of that, it is usually a better experience if you can build restaurants around it, maybe hotels, apartments, etc. And we've seen it done from certain MLB teams, and it has been really cool and often a really great boost for the area too. I've brought up the Nats area. That's one that really has stood out to me. I know, the Braves kind of started from scratch and kind of took over their whole area in Cobb County, but the Nats area was really interesting where there were plenty of spots that were just kind of blank. And then you all of a sudden see new buildings popping up everywhere, and they've really created an awesome little community near the ballpark now with tons of apartments and restaurants and hotels and all of that. So anyway, it's changed a lot there, where there just wasn't a lot there in the past. There's a lot of just empty land.
And it's a good move because the city can get behind something like this. It brings more commerce to the city. It brings more jobs. but it brings the fans to a one central area, which to me builds the city fan base up, which I think Philly fans are already great fans. People are going to say it's a brutal. I mean, Snit just went on Snicker just went on a show the other day and was saying how brutal that is and how they treated his family, his wife in the playoffs. Look, I can say that about every single playoff city that I've ever sent my family to. Like, if you're an opposing team, they're gonna treat you bad. To me, this type of thing brings the Philly fan base together and creates that camaraderie for your fan base that, to me, I think some cities are lacking.
Listen, the Philly fans they're the worst, bro. I'll tell you too. They're the worst. Out of all the places I've been, they're the absolute worst.
Oh, you mean going after you, like when you're on the field?
Oh, without a doubt. And I live right down the street, man. I told one of my buddies, I said, bro, you're gonna have to get down here. This guy don't stop. And one of my buddies came down there and solved it for me. No,
Stop it, Kevin.
Brutal.
Stop it, Kevin Mitchell.
Hey, it is a vibe for the playoffs in Philly, I gotta say. But yes, Northeast fans get after you.
Come on.
All right, one more in terms of not taking care of your city. So we haven't talked about him in a few days, and there's some news there as usual. This tweet from Carl Buscheck on the A's opening day payroll. It was $18 million higher in 2007 than it will be on opening day of 2024. 17 years ago, the A's spent more on their players. That's all the evidence you could possibly need to know about the intentional sabotaging of a team's chances to even connect with a community. That was all actually a line from Damon Bruce, who's been covering this story from the jump and does a great job on that front. But Carl, kind of posting the quotes. 17 years ago. Look at where revenues were at 17 years ago. That is a crime. That is a crime within the sports world that should not be allowed. So on that front, obviously, Oakland is trying to activate as a community like they always do, and they have massive plans for opening day next week and released this little video that I like.
Hey everyone, it's your pal, Dave Cavill. I'm not just the president, oh hey, block, but I'm also part of the Nevada State Legislature.
I find that disingenuous.
Yeah, we didn't get anything done. So make sure to come check us out on March 28th here at the Collie. But over in the parking lot is where I'll be. There's Bart. Opening day, March 28th in the parking lot.
As the actor who is not the real president of the A's, they put the disclaimer there too. But the fake Dave Cavill, who's like block, because that's true. I mean, he blocks everyone. The A's don't let you comment on their social media posts, and they are planning a massive block party. I have to say, it's really cool for the community to not just be pissed off about the situation, but to also bring everyone together and be like, yo, let's have a party. Like, let's make sure that what brought us all together and made us all friends still continues, right? Our love for the game and for this team, even though they're ripping it away from us, let's enjoy each other, So that's what they're going to do, and they're going to do it outside of the ballpark.
And to give you an idea, $18 million in 2007 is now, according to the calculator, it's worth $27 million. Not even talking about all the money that's been made during that time. Essentially, it's $27 million in today's money of a lower payroll this year.
So what would that be? Like what?
Yeah.
What was it really? Right? You're saying that's times 3.5-ish, right? So it's really. I'm going to be so off on this, like 70 million less or something like that, because of present day value of the dollar.
Right. It's crazy, but I love it. This is another fan base that is every player that comes on here and talks about Oakland. Oh, those fans. Oh, man, they created an environment in the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. No analyst, no number cruncher will ever say fans can manipulate a game. I would disagree, and I think a lot of players, especially when you go into a tough environment, they can manipulate a game. They can change how players feel about themselves and how players like how tense they get in situations. And that changes, you grip the bat a little tighter, you grip the ball a little tighter. Maybe, you don't execute it quite as much and the other team comes out on top because they're used to playing in that environment.
Well said and well done on that video. That was perfect.
That was
Some
funny.
people in the chat like that guy is good. That Cavill actor.
I like what he said. And there's the Bart. Or look, Bart.
Bart here. He should do actually one because Howard Terminal, which could easily be like a freaking booming area and industry where the ballpark should be, and I'm sure in the future. Hi Bart. Hi Howard. All of my friends.
It's funny.
All right. We have our next guest ready to go. This is something we actually haven't covered a ton on our show, but I'd like to kind of test the temperature of our fan base because I'm a huge, huge fanatic on this front. And actually have been following our guest that you can see right here for a long time. Andy Behrens joining us from Yahoo. He's a Yahoo Sports Fantasy analyst for a long time. Andy, first off, great to see you and happy fantasy baseball drafting season.
Hey, it's great to be with you guys. I actually had not seen that Dave Cavill's block party thing, and I'm still chuckling about it. That was amazing.
It's going to be a vibe there next week. There's going to be thousands and thousands of fans outside the ballpark. There will be many more outside than inside. That is a guarantee. It's the only thing I can guarantee about the A's at the moment. But Andy, it's great to have you on to talk fantasy sports, of course, and fantasy baseball specifically. We had been chatting behind the scenes about kind of bringing some information to everyone. We don't have our own resident fantasy person here at the moment, but we'd love to get your thoughts on the upcoming season and, of course, dive into some of the sleepers that you've picked out that people should be looking at. And it, of course, applies also beyond fantasy baseball, even if someone doesn't play, because it's players that you think are going to take another step, right?
Yeah, ideally, anybody that we hype for fantasy purposes, right, is a super interesting player in reality. And I guess the list that I'll give you, just for the record, these are guys that I have actually taken in drafts over the last couple days. So if they sink your team, they sink mine too. But the whole thing with sleepers is they go late. So we don't really have to worry about these guys. We're taking them all at sort of low risk prices. And given the discussion that just happened about the A's, I'll start with an Oakland middle infielder. Go with Zach Geloff. You're gonna see in this segment that I have kind of a little recency bias thing for guys who are just tearing it up in the spring, and that is Geloff. He's got 4 homers. He's got an OPS near 1,000 in the spring. He was an on-base machine in the minors. He had a couple of minor league seasons with an OBP over 400. So I think that's going to translate at least to some extent. And you look at what he did last year. 14 homers, 14 steals in less than 70 games in the big leagues. So it's not much of a stretch to think that this guy can go 2020, 2025, something like that. There's a very good chance, I think, that he finishes as a top 10 fantasy second baseman, and you don't have to draft him anywhere near that range, right? He goes much later than that. Another name that I like from the Reds, Christian Encarnacion Strand. CES was a guy that a lot of us were waiting for last year, and we might have worried about playing time a little bit coming into this season because Cincinnati had all these bats in the infield, but they've had a couple injuries, they had a suspension, so now it's pretty clear that Encarnacion Strand is just going to get regular at bats, and he's another guy who's just raking in spring. 8 extra base hits, he's got 4 home runs. He had a ridiculous half season at AAA last year, 20 homers, 331 average, and then held his own in the majors with 13 more home runs. This is one of those guys who's he's fun to watch because he's a great bad ball hitter, right? In the tradition of Vlad Sr. So no pitch is safe with this guy. He's just a clear candidate for 30 homers. He's got, he gets to do his hitting in the most friendly ballpark in the majors too. So we like that. Another guy, an outfielder, I'll go with Ceddanne Rafaela. He's an outfielder with shortstop eligibility. He's also playing a little bit of second base in the spring. We like that. He's making a very strong argument to open the season in Boston. He's got a little flash to his game, so he's fun. He's kind of a party. He's got a little power and speed. In just over 100 games in the minors last year, 20 home runs, 36 steals. That is the combination of talent that we like in fantasy. A guy that I also like in the both actually in the middle infield and at a corner, Maikel Garcia of the Royals. It sure looks like he's going to lead off for that team. And if he's leading off for that team, like the Kansas City lineup is kind of sneaky frisky, at least at the top. Like he's going to be in a great position to score a bunch of runs. He's got a little bit of power. He also has a couple of 30 steal seasons in the minors. He swiped 23 bags last year. And third base is one of those spots where it's almost impossible to find steals. There's not like a vintage, prime Todd Frazier in the player pool right now that is giving us like 20 guaranteed. We just don't have that. So speed is just not there. So I really like Garcia. And then one last name, because I feel like I should give you a pitcher. I'm going to go with Gavin Stone. Gavin Stone is he's probably going to open the season in the Dodgers rotation, which of course we like because they're going to win 100 games, 105, 110, take your pick. It's going to be a big number. Man, he's had a great minor league career. A couple seasons ago, it was like 168 Ks in maybe 120 innings. He's had a great spring. The story with him is he was maybe tipping his pitches at the big league level last year. Obviously, big league teams are not going to miss that. They think they've corrected it. He's had a huge spring, and he's a guy you can just take in the last round.
All right. You've hit a lot right there. So I got a fan question, aka my buddies. I told them you were coming on here, and they got their drafts actually tomorrow. So one question is, I know a lot of people, this is from Nicolette. I know a lot of people doing drafts now, and majority of them are switching to auction-style drafting. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think it is by far, it's going to take a while, right? Like you get in a draft like that, you better set aside like 3 or 4 hours, right? Maybe it's not that long, but it's probably 3 hours. It's a time commitment. The great thing about it, though, is that it gives everybody a shot at every player. And you obviously don't see that in a traditional snake draft, right? Like there's only one guy in your draft who's gonna get Ronald Acuna, and that's the person who's drafting first. So this way, everybody gets a shot at all of the best players. And you see, just like in the big leagues itself, you see a number of different ways to build a roster. Some people are gonna, I'm just coming back from a live draft in New York that was the same format where like I went after Juan Soto, I went after Bobby Witt, I went after Corbin Burns. Like I spent a ton of money on my 3 best players. And then I've got a bunch of dollar guys at the end of the roster. And some people are going to be more balanced, but there's just a lot more strategy that goes into it. Again, a bit more of a time commitment. But if we're talking about a serious hardcore league, that is absolutely the way you should go.
All right. I got another one from Dom Wajdilla. They're talking about tiebreakers. Okay. If there's a tiebreaker, what should it be? Should it be standard by hits or hits plus walks? They said the trend now is hits plus walks now with tiebreakers. What do you think on that opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I like that because for the most part, obviously, like not every walk is the same as a hit, right? But that's a little bit better. That's we're really getting down to sort of granular details if we're talking about what tiebreakers should be in fantasy leagues. But anything that tips it in for walks, like my general fantasy philosophy across any sport is that you want the things that win in the real game to matter a great deal in fantasy. And so if we're just, for years, we kind of, it's walks are indirectly in the game, right? Because we care about runs, we care about stuff like that, but they weren't as present in the game as they should have been. So I like any tiebreaker that involves walks a little bit more.
Andy, fan question from Patrick. He said, has the price gotten too high for Wyatt Langford? He's going over Jackson Chourio now. And these guys on the show know I've been big on the Langford train really since the draft. And in many years, I think he could have been a number 1 overall pick. So my answer to Patrick is going to be a no, because I think he can win AL Rookie of the Year. And I actually like him this year over Chourio based on the bat getting time in college and just probably being more seasoned at this point. A long-term different, but what do you think?
Yeah, this is one of those guys where the sharper your league, the earlier Langford's going to go. because obviously he's a wonderful hitter. He's got, I don't know, maybe he's hit another home run since I last checked, but like 6 home runs as of yesterday, right? And he's just hitting bombs. Got off to a little bit of a rough start in the spring, but nobody has risen up fantasy draft boards more dramatically, I would say, than Langford. The team environment is great, huge talent. You're going to get a ton of power. You're going to get a little bit of speed, and he's, in terms of just age and readiness, like he's the one guy where I think we should just all expect, he's going to be a good major league hitter immediately. The thing with Chourio is that we might be a year too early, because he literally just turned 20 years old. Like a week ago, he turned 20. Now, he's always been ahead of the curve in terms of age for his level. But man, that guy also just put up something like 22 homers and 40 plus steals as a teenager in the high minors, which like Acuna did and almost no one else has done. There's only 5 seasons in the last 65 years in the minor leagues in which a teenager went 20-40, and Chourio has one of those years. So he could be an outlier player. And if if your priority is speed, I say you can still go Chourio, but Langford's going to go well ahead of him. Langford is going to go round him. He's probably going to be a top 100 player by the time you're drafting.
Do you crush every league that you're in? You said you're in a bunch of leagues. Do people not even invite you to their leagues?
No, no, it's like if you're a hardcore fantasy geek, I think there's a little bit of appeal to having like a veteran fantasy person in there. Like that moment when a video of me pops up in the draft room is a nice meta experience, I think, for everyone. So I think people like that. I'll tell you, like, I have more luck in luck. If I'm in a baseball league with like, just people from the neighborhood, high school friends, college friends, baseball is one of those things that is very heavily about skill, right? Like it's a real time commitment, and it can be a grind, and you have to play it every day, and you have to pay attention for 6 months, right? So like that is always going to tilt toward me because it's my job. I get to do that. And yeah, I like if I'm in a casual league with just buddies, I'm probably going to win that league in baseball. The thing that makes baseball so fun and so, sort of maddening is that there frankly is more luck involved in football. Like football leagues will be driven by, your success in that league is going to be driven by your best player. Like this past year, for example, if you had Christian McCaffrey on a roster, you were in the playoffs in like 90% of leagues. You were in the finals in like 50% of leagues. And baseball, even Acuna last year, he didn't put up numbers like that, right? Like you were probably in the finals in like 20% of leagues, something like that. But the impact of an individual baseball player is just not like football. So if you get one of those golden tickets in football, you're going to have a lot of success, but baseball doesn't play that way at all.
So that leads me right into the next question. How successful has the spring training bias? Because as players, we always talk about, and guys who play all the time, Todd and AJ, we're always like, spring training stats don't mean jack. I disagree, but I would love to see what your success has been, kind of been like recency bias. And I know you're picking, those are sleepers that you're picking, but it shows that an Acuna pick can't carry you through the entire season. So you need these sleepers.
Yeah, I think for obvious reasons, spring training stats matter more where teams are telling us that they matter, right? Like, and this is true in football as well. This is true in like preseason football. If a team is screaming at us that they have a position battle and somebody is thriving, that matters. Like they're gonna get at bats. They're gonna be on the opening day roster. So we care about that. Sometimes there are situations where where we have to pay attention. Guys who are adding pitches in the off season, sometimes those are guys who really pop in the year ahead. Guys who are adding velocity, we care about stuff like that. For the most part, if I'm dealing with a veteran, if I'm dealing with somebody where I think we have a deep history with this player and we kind of know who they are, I don't want to see any notes at all. I want a player page that is free of notes. I don't want to hear about anything. Like I just want to know that they're doing their work and they're healthy and they're coming into, like, I don't know, Corbin Corbin Burns gives up a few runs, I'm not going to panic over that. I know who he is. I know he's going to be a successful pitcher in a good environment. But if we're talking about young players, we're talking about Gavin Stone, somebody I mentioned earlier, who just got rocked at the big league level last year. I want to know that his spring is going well. I want to know that he's figured some things out. And that's an example of a player where we've gotten, we have some positive news and we have all kinds of reasons to think it's going to get better.
I'm done because I feel like I'm just on the ball here with these questions. Deep benches or smaller bench with waiver wire importance? What's your preference?
Oh man, that's such a good question.
All right,
because
good.
I'm one of the things that I'm a geek for a lot of reasons. One of the reasons I'm a geek is that I love to talk about like league configurations and things like that. I think it makes your league a lot more interesting if you have short benches. If you can just stash everybody in your fantasy league, the waiver wire isn't a fun place, and we're not making a bunch of transactions, and you're not forced to make hard decisions. We want like daily decisions. We want decisions to be really meaningful. We don't want unlimited, IL spots. We don't want unlimited benches. We want to force people to make trades. We want to force people to make ad drops. We want those drops to be a little bit painful sometimes, right? So I think short benches is the way to go. And then, it plays into strategy, right? Like I want to fill my bench with guys who are eligible at 3 positions, 4 positions. So I have a little bit of flexibility in daily lineups or weekly lineups. So I love a short bench league. I think it is definitely the way to go.
And then my last. You go ahead. No, my last question is, who do we avoid? Who are the guys where it's like, hey, they had good seasons last year, or this upcoming dude, like, hey, I know that he's going to be okay, but I would kind of avoid him right now. Who are we going to avoid right now coming up in this upcoming season?
Yeah, I'll give you a handful of names, and I just like to be clear. I would take any of these guys at the right price. I don't think any of these guys are toxic necessarily, right? Like these are not avoid at all costs sort of players. These are guys where like consensus is here and I'm probably here. And I think I'll start with a guy who I would love to be wrong about, and that is Elly De La Cruz. But super exciting player. Obviously, he has all the StatCast goodies, right? Like exit velocity, sprint speed, arm strength. He's a superhero, basically. We love him, and he's a highlight machine. The problem is, he hit 191 in the second half last year, and he got on base at like a 272 clip, and that will not play in your fantasy league. And the problem,
tell Scott, this is sad. Scott is almost crying. You are never going to be invited back on
Todd,
this
where
show
you at, dude?
again.
Help me out.
I don't
like, I would love to
English.
be wrong. I would love for him to not be that guy going forward, right? He's young, he's developing. It could be better. Maybe he hits 260 if he hits 260, he might be the first round pick. He might be the first overall pick next year, right? Because he can go 2060, he can go 2070. But man,
Luis Arias
really
for me. Luis Arias, that's a tough one for me. The guy can hit, man.
Yeah, so this is where Arise is a good example of where like fantasy versus reality just breaks down, because Arise is an awesome player. He's wonderful. It's wonderful to watch him hit. He's as good in terms of just bat on ball as anybody in the game. He doesn't have power and he doesn't have speed. And that is a huge problem in fantasy. It is particularly a huge problem in the current environment where stolen bases really spiked last season. It is difficult to carry anybody at any roster spot who doesn't steal bases now. And if we've got somebody who doesn't steal bases and he's not going to hit more than like 9, 10, 11 home runs, that is a real problem. The nice thing about Arise is he can just go ahead and hit 350 and then he's still helping you anyway. But if he doesn't do that, if he's a mere mortal who wins a batting title at like 320, then Arise can be a real problem.
Go ahead, say it, Kratz. I know you want to say it.
This is a list. This is a list of majority list of Scott's favorite players.
Oh no! Did I? Really
This is why Scott.
Well, we're not talking
loses.
fantasy. We're talking real life. I love Luis Arias in real life. I actually do love Luis Arias in my top fantasy league that I've been a part of for over a decade now, and the league itself is 35 years old. But that's because it's an NL only league. It's the way the scoring's set up. Batting average is just really tough to find. It's a super, super deep league. So Arise definitely stands out if he's hitting 350, 360, right? And you can pick up the power elsewhere. So it depends on the league that you're in, at least for me. And on the Elly De La Cruz part, I'm just super high on the upside and think that he'll make the adjustments necessary. I did like his plate awareness in the minor leagues, and I think that he's going to learn how to adjust. And the ground ball percentage went through the roof in the second half of the season, but I never saw that in the minor league. So I just think he's going to adjust to it. And for fantasy purposes, like you mentioned, if he can hit in the mid 200s, he's going to and get on base in the low 300s. With the power and the speed that he has, he could be a top 10 fantasy player this year. It wouldn't shock you, right? It just also wouldn't shock you if he's barely on a roster for your fantasy league.
Yeah, the problem here is where you have to take him. And this is also one of those cases where sometimes the sharper the league, people want to get noticed. And so I've seen him go in the second round. You'll never see him fall past the third round. And I don't want to have a lot of questions about a player that early in a draft. And that is definitely where we are with De La Cruz. Again, though, I would love to be wrong. I would love for him to be, a face of baseball type of player. I think he gets there eventually. I hope it's this year. But if you're drafting him in the second round, it has to be this year. But of course, you're right. Like the range of outcomes also includes a scenario where he hits 260 and he goes like 30 and 70, and he's the most valuable player in the National League. Like that's definitely in play. But the flip side of it is a 205 average is also in play, and that is really, really difficult to carry.
He would be in AAA, so you're not going to carry minor league players. Like I thought that's why they got Gmar Candelario, but I'm just saying, save your picks.
Yeah, this is a case where you really got you got lucky if you're carrying De La Cruz into this season, because that team had a logjam in the infield before guys got hurt, right? But now McLean is down and Friedel is down and Marte is suspended, and so the playing time concerns that we might have worried about for De La Cruz if he didn't get off to a hot start, those have kind of evaporated. He's gonna have a pretty long leash now, but that's good and bad. Like if he's hitting 205 in the big leagues and they're not sending him down, then you're not they're not saving you from yourself. You're gonna keep playing him, and it's gonna drag your team batting average down.
Hey, last question for me. I think we'll finish up. Was there a guy, particular third baseman from like the year 2011 to 2018 that you were very high on?
Legend, absolute legend. I mean, you can like, what was the best? This is off the top of my head. I bet the best Todd Frazier season, I'm going to say, was like 28 and 29 home runs and 20 steals. There's a 20 steal season out there, right? Like that
that was 2015. I had 20 steals, I think 45 doubles, 35 homers. So that was, if you got me in 2015, I hope I helped you out in your league.
Oh man, you helped everyone, and that was it was a different era, right? But like, man, 20 steals from third base has always been kind of a cheat code. It would be, oh my gosh, that season this year. I don't know where you'd go. You'd go second round. You'd go right around De La Cruz. Like, there's just you can't find that at third base. There's like 3 third basemen that we all want, and then it's a long wait.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Andy.
What a dig me moment. What a dig me moment.
I needed.
Todd, do you want us to clip that
on a Friday?
Yeah, Todd, do you want us to clip that and put that online and blast it
you
everywhere?
don't even have to. Don't even just tag me and Andy. That's it. I don't need anything else.
You got it. Derek, he's on it behind the scenes. We'll make that happen. Andy, this was fun. Appreciate you. You can follow Andy at Andy Behrens on Twitter. We'll post some of these clips too with his account. And also you can join and create a Yahoo Fantasy Baseball League today in the Yahoo Fantasy app or by visiting fantasysports.yahoo.com. I've used Yahoo for years for fantasy. And I'll tell you this, Andy, on your way out. So I've always been into digital over linear for how I consume sports. And when I was super young, maybe like in the 13 range, and I was obsessed with fantasy sports, I would watch the clips on Yahoo Sports with Larry Beal and I think it was Chris Carter. And I was like, what's Chris Carter doing on here? That was like, this is better than real TV, and they're talking more authentic. And now we actually do this every day, right, as a baseball show. But I go way back, just for you to know,
Oh, that's awesome. Shout out to Larry Beal. He's so good. Yeah, appreciate that. This has been a pleasure. It's really been great talking to you guys.
Thank you, Andy. Happy drafting for any that you've got left, and we'll have you on at some point down the line too. Would love to do it.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Andy Behrens with us from Yahoo. That was fun. Yeah, we had a lot going on in the chat. The real in-depth tiebreaker stuff like Todd Father's talking about, and also people are calling for an FT Fantasy League, which I'm certainly down for, so we'll pull that later. Let's get to real life again, roster moves, because things are happening. The Tigers optioned Matt Manning. So you've got Casey Mize and Reese Olson cracking that starting rotation for Detroit behind Tarek Skubal, Kenta Maeda, and Jack Flaherty. The D-backs cut Elvis Andrus, who was a non-roster guy. The Dodgers send JP Fireeisen and Gus Varland to AAA OK City, and the Pirates send down Nick Gonzalez and Joshua Palacios. Obviously, I know what you're going to say. We said Fireeisen on the other day, but Kratz, hopefully he gets back up there with LA. They always have a lot of pitching injuries, so I'm sure he'll be okay.
I'm sure he'll be okay, but he's also recovering too. Like if you sit there and you go, okay, he's going to make the team and go pitch in Seoul, that's one thing. You're only going to pitch him once. You're going to start getting into the meat and potatoes of the season. You need to make sure he is able to bounce back. He's a little bit up there in age. He's not like, for his service time, he's a little bit older because he broke into the league, so he's got an option. That's actually could be a value with him coming back from shoulder surgery. Anybody coming back from surgeries, you don't know how guys are going to bounce back. And if you get into a space where you're like, you know what, we can't use this player, JP, we can't use him in back-to-back until May, it's better to do that in AAA. Make sure you're 100% in the sense of recovery so you can come out and help the team back-to-back days when you're in different roles.
Yeah, and I'm looking for some reason the Gonzalez kid from the Pirates. I'm like, man, when is this guy going to get his chance? So he's right on the cusp too of getting up there. I think they're just trying to figure out what position to put him in. But that's going to be a name you guys are going to be hearing about out of New Mexico coming up here in the next year or two for sure.
I agree, dude. You've been waiting for him for a minute, and this is part of the problem for Pittsburgh. Where are we at with their development, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's a drafting thing, a development thing, I mean, they've tanked for a long time. Yeah. So you do want to see some progress from Nick Gonzalez. Obviously, we'll see what Henry Davis looks like. And is he a starting catcher? I think there's more questions, obviously, about where he'll eventually be on the field. Just because the bat plays so well if you're a catcher. That was part of the lore there of a number one pick. And you got to nail your high-level picks. Kratz is shaking his head yes, because that's the problem here. If you're going to tank, you've got to nail these high-level picks and the development process here. And if not, there has to be an evaluation of what's going on because they do not touch the free agent market. That's important here.
This might get too much into the weeds, but in the minor leagues, if you're developing utility players, you're developing, for the most part, mediocre players. If your top prospects are utility guys, you're not developing championship teams. If you take a catcher number one overall, yes, I get it. The Pirates were trying to save some money to try to hit on another prospect in the draft later on who was maybe a little more unsignable, give him more money. That's part of it too. But Henry Davis specifically, how do you develop him? You pushed him to the big leagues because he can hit. You took him because he is a catcher and his ability to hit is super valuable if he can catch. So you have to develop that position and be okay with the fact we're going to hold him back. We're going to hold him back. We're going to keep developing that catching position to make sure we get the value. Is he a big leaguer? 100%. But if you're the Pirates and all you're doing is just drafting and you're never going out and getting free agents, you have to hit on your primary position players, and you can't have a minor leagues full of utility guys Every 3 days, they're bouncing to new places. Well, we're on a 2-game rotation. We're going to play our guy at short, and then he'll play second for 2 days, and then second, and then third for 2 days. You don't want to create something that teams create once they make the big leagues and can't stick in the big leagues. You want to create elite level players that are going to step into the elite positions in the big leagues.
Well said. And actually, I feel like we've talked about the Pirates quite a bit this offseason. And they made some moves. I know they got Chapman for
a little
over 10. Yeah, they did. They made a lot of moves. I mean, they're not going to be heavy hitters is the point in free agency. We went over some of their largest moves ever, and it's just not what they do. What did we say it was? Russell Martin is the all-timer.
2 years, $17 million.
Oof, most guaranteed money spent in free agency. No, it just sparked how we had so much cool fanfare yesterday with the expansion of fair territory and Alana Rizzo joining the party. And so I was just going back and forth with a ton of fans on all different socials. And there was just one fan who replied to something and said, "You only cover these 5 teams." And he listed the 5 teams. And I was like, "No, we don't." It's like, I promise you that's not true. I was like, we're covering anything that's relevant. I know. It was just funny. Tweet. Did you see? Did I put you into that tweet?
Yeah, I saw.
I actually want to try and find it because we do have like a few extra minutes today, and it's Friday, so fuck it. And sometimes I get into it on socials, but it's usually just because I only go this far if someone brings something up that I'm just like, huh?
You didn't.
I'll find it.
You didn't watch. If that's what you're saying, you don't watch, and you need to watch.
Correct.
Because we cover the relevant news, but we also cover why teams are in the positions that they're in. I mean, we have people to talk about it. It's not just us. We have Alex Anthopoulos on to talk about why the Braves are in the position that they're in. We have free agents that are signing with teams or, you never talk about my team. Well, your team hasn't done jack. Like, we're not going to talk about it other than the fact to say they haven't done jack, so they're not worth talking about. Like, to me, we should be talking about the Cubs more often. Well, Brutes Magoots. They haven't gone out and got anybody except they retained one of their players.
I just feel like, and well done. I just feel like we're on hours every day. We really do get to everything. And even the teams that don't do much like the Rockies, we still will like have some playful banter about what's going on with them. Oh, here we go. I found it. Miller Mets. Ugh, it's always the same few teams with you guys. The A's, Dodgers, White Sox, Astros, Cubs, Orioles. You do know there are 24 other teams out there, right? I'm trying to think even in my head of which teams we've covered, Todd Father covered the most based off of news that has been out there. And it's just wild to me. Like, you definitely usually get Yankees, Red Sox, Cardinals. And I'm just like, wow, this is kind of impressive. We got the A's and the White Sox on here, the Astros. Like, I don't know. It's an eclectic list.
He just said Miller Mets, Mets, Mets. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we do. I think we talk about the Mets quite a bit.
It proved my point from earlier.
What you said about optimism and pessimism?
Yeah, exactly. They're always going to find a problem. So
I like that. That is full circle show. I would say if you're a fan of the Nats or the Rockies, we don't cover them very much. I'll be honest. When something comes up, I'm kind of like, did he mean Rockies or are we talking about rookies? Like, what are we like? Because they ain't
Dude,
doing
we were
much.
just at Nats camp. We spent 2+ hours on the Nats. We talked about the Strasburg story when that whole thing happened for a week. Right.
We've talked
quite a bit about James Wood and Dylan Cruz.
We've talked to a bunch of Rockies guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We just had Nolan Jones on.
We don't play a game where it's everyone gets 1/30th. We're not rich enough yet to have someone behind the scenes who tracks every single word and goes, okay, that word goes to this team, that word goes to this team, that word goes to this team. It depends on what's going on in the baseball world. So I don't know. I just thought it was funny. I don't care. It's playful. I wasn't like, oh, I'm so mad. I more just thought it was a funny thing. I'm like, really? You think we only talk about those teams in particular?
I do love that we talk about the White Sox. The White Sox shouldn't be talked about, but it is tremendous for me to be able to rib AJ every day about his team.
Well, also last year for a team that obviously was really bad, they had a lot of drama and also they had a lot of trade chips. Like it was a team to talk about, not always for the right reasons, but we're going to talk about them. So anyway, let's slap hands. All right, people. First off, just want to remind everyone about the FT membership that we now have on YouTube. It's a new thing. I know Highlight in the chat was like, oh, I saw that you can now hit the membership button. So that's where those fun little emojis are coming from within the chat. So I'm in there.
And it's cheap too. Very cheap too.
Yep. When Ken was on, I was following Derek behind the scenes with us and with NYY recaps. We were just matching Ken emojis. So there's some nice perks there. I'd like to even kind of expand the perks, but I think YouTube's in charge of that, but we'll try. I think there's some other cool things you could do membership wise, but there it is. All right. If you want to join the FT fam, support the channel and all of that, that's how you can do it. So check it out. It's on the screen. You just press join. And then obviously, yes, it's only if you can afford to do that. If not, totally get it. Okay. We're not trying to make you do anything you don't want to do, but we just appreciate you. And if you're able to, cool. Couple other show announcements. Number one, our show is back obviously every day, but next week we transition after Tuesday to 1:00 Eastern time because Todd Father is sick of having to wake up early and he demanded that we switch the show from 11 to 1. He was like, that's it. No, but we are switching for real. The players, though, just for people that ask sometimes, they were like, well, why are you guys switching times? This will be an annual thing for spring training, so we can chat with the players. It's 11, back to 1 to 3 next week. Now, on Mondays and Thursdays, which begins next week, Dodgers territory will follow our show. And on that show, you can totally give them shit if they are talking about the Dodgers more than other teams. I encourage you to do that. Now, they also do plan on hitting other baseball topics as well, obviously taking a deeper dive into the NL West and then going from there, right? This is the national show. That show will definitely have a Dodgers spin to it, and hopefully we'll have more versions of this for other teams in the future too. But that one is biased. They are talking more about one team than the rest, and they should. Alana Rizzo and Clint Pasillas will be hosting that show. It debuts on Monday at 3:00 Eastern time. And too bad, Todd Father, there's nothing going on with the Dodgers.
It's a great time to talk about the Dodgers.
Yeah. Whew. A lot going on there. On Monday, we will be at Pirates Camp.
Nice.
FT at Pirates Camp. Rowdy Telez, we're coming for you. And Kratz, what do you got?
The Sabaceros. Scranton Rail Riders.
Ooh.
Copa de Diversión. Hats. I love it. I've been wanting to put this one on for a while, so now I can wear it back out. It's kind of like a spring color too. Like it's so nice.
A+. Festival hat.
I give that a B+. Very nice.
A+. Rave hat.
I think,
definitely
go ahead.
for sure. If you had some Jordans that match these Johns, you would rock this hat all the time. Except you're a big leaguer, so you wouldn't be seen wearing the minor league logo. You gotta be confident in yourself to wear a minor league hat. I'm just saying.
I feel like it's something my 5-year-old could draw up, so I give it a B+.
A+ rave hat. Love it. I'm 5 years old. And who should we talk to at Pirates Camp on Monday? I will put this in the chat too, but please give us names. Highlight saying interview Brian Reynolds. Give us other names too that we should grab besides Rowdy.
Oh, bring in the Cuban Missile for sure. Shot him.
See you Monday.